or welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to learn how to make this very colorful and interesting crochet halter top, and it's in the Brazilian flag themed colors, and yeah, that's white, blue, yellow, green, and then the repeat. So I decided to use these colors because it's World Cup season and I've been seeing Brazilian crochet themed projects looking very lovely. So I jumped onto the trend. But this is an update for one of my old designs. I've brought it back so that we can get better visuals because my old video wasn't as clear as this one is going to be. And you can go ahead and use any colors of your choice. You can use your flag colors. Feel free to play around with any colors of your choice. And for the materials, I used these 4 colors, and you will need just one ball of each and every color. So for me, I use these colors and they're right here. I currently can't find the green, but yeah, just get any colors of your choice. And you can use as many colors as you wish. For me, I used 4 colors, but you can go ahead and use as many as 10. That's if that's the effect that you want to create for your top. And then you also need a pair of scissors to cut off the loose ends. That's because we are using many colors and we're going to have so many loose ends to weave in at the end of the project. We shall also need a 3mm crochet hook, a darning needle to weave in our ends, some stitch markers just in case they are needed, and then we shall also need a measuring tape. The measurement that we are going to consider for this project is the rib cage circumference. So for me, that is between 26 and 27 inches, and you will see how we will apply this measurement as we go ahead to build our project. So pick your colors wisely and let's get into class. So enjoy the gallery. This was one of the best photo shoots that I did with my model, and we got some amazing images. So if you would like the written pattern, it's already available on all my online shops. Another thing that you will need, by the way, sorry for forgetting, is a piece of lining. So I lined this piece just because the stitch that we decided to use for this project is a see-through stitch and it creates holes. So on the other side of my project, I hand sewed a piece of lining onto it just to make it comfortable for whoever will buy this project, or for my model to actually wear it and we bring this design to life. So make sure you have a piece of lining. For me, I used when I went to the craft store, I asked for stretchy lining, and this is what I got. And you can see it's quite stretchy, but not so much. And this should just be okay to use for your project so that we don't see through the project. You can see what we have. So for the materials, as I had mentioned, I have my colors here: white, blue, yellow, and green. That's how I'm going to place my colors. Oh, by the way, if you would like to create a matching bandana, a cute matching bandana with the same exact colors, I already have a video tutorial on the channel, and you can go ahead and make the top and create a cute bandana to match this vibe. So I'll be leaving all the related links in the description box below. And yeah, also for the shorts that you've just seen at the beginning of the video. So to start your project, you're going to start off with a slip knot. And guys, you can use any yarn of your choice for this project. I won't be dictating the yarn that you'll need. You're going to create a slip knot and make a chain of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we have our 5 chains here. You're going to go into the very first chain that you created with a shell, and a shell for this pattern is yarn over, 3 double crochets into the chain, 1, 2, and 3, and then make a chain of 2 and 3 more double crochets into the same exact chain. So that will count as a shell. A shell for this pattern is 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. and then you're going to make a chain of 1 and go into the same exact chain with 1 double crochet. And we are done with row 1. That's what row 1 will look like. We're going on to row 2. You're going to make a chain of 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then turn your work. The chain of 4 counts as a double crochet chain 1, and then you're going to go into the very first chain 1 space with 3 double crochets, and then you're going to make a chain of 1, and into the chain 2 space you're going to go in there with a shell. And as I had mentioned earlier, a shell is 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets into the same exact space. And then you're going to make a chain of 1, skip over the next 3 double crochets, and into the chain 4 space you're going to go in there with 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, and 1 double crochet into the same exact space. So we begin our rows with a chain of 4 and end our rows with a chain 1 double crochet. So the chain of 4 at the beginning of the row counts as a double crochet chain 1. That's why we end our row with a chain 1 double crochet, just to balance what we have on this side of the triangle with what we have on this side. So this is what we have for row 2. Row 3, you're going to make a chain of 4, which counts as a double crochet chain 1. Turn your work. Into the chain 1 space you're going to go in there with 3 double crochets, after your 3 double crochets you make a chain of 1, and then 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space, and then you're going to make a chain of 1, and into the chain 2 space at the top of the triangle you always place a shell after chaining 1. So it's a chain 1, a shell into the chain 2 space, and a shell is 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets into the same chain 2 space. So this is going to maintain the top corner of the triangle, as you can see here. And then you're going to make a chain of 1, and into the chain 1 space you're going to go in there with 3 double crochets. So for this pattern we're not going into the stitches, we're going into the chain spaces. Whether you're placing a shell or 3 double crochets, you're going to go into the chain spaces. So 3 double crochets here, chain 1, and into the last chain 4 space you're going to go in there with 3 double crochets, chain 1, and 1 more double crochet into the same exact space. So just as I had mentioned, this is how we end our rows when it comes to the granny stitch. So we've just placed a double crochet in here and it has created a chain 1 space here, just as we have a chain 4 at the beginning of the row. So we're going on to row 4. You're going to make a chain of 4, turn your work. This is how we begin our rows. And then into the very first chain 1 space you're going to place 3 double crochets, and after 3 double crochets you're going to make a chain of 1, and then if it's a chain 1 space you only place 3 double crochets. Okay, so chain 1, because these are 3 double crochets. After 3 double crochets you make a chain of 1. So these are 3 double crochets. Now I've made a chain of 1 and this is a chain 1 space, and every chain 1 space gets 3 double crochets. and after 3 double crochets you make a chain of 1, and this is a chain 2 space. So the chain 2 space at the top of the triangle always gets a shell. So after a chain of 1 here, and this is a chain 2 space, so we are going to place a shell into the chain 2 space at the top of the triangle, and a shell is 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. I think this is the best way I can explain the pattern. And just like that, we have our shell placed. And after this shell, you're going to make a chain of 1. And this is a chain 1 space, meaning it's going to get 3 double crochets because it's a chain 1 space, and every chain 1 space gets 3 double crochets. And after 3 double crochets, you make a chain of 1. The next space is a chain 1 space, so we shall go in there with 3 double crochets. And after 3 double crochets, you make a chain of 1. And then you're going to skip. The next one is a chain 4 space. So the space at the end of the row gets 3 double crochets, chain 1, and then into the same space you're going to place another double crochet there to end your row. So that's the row that we're basically going to repeat. So for me, I am going to only make a total of 4 rows for my very first color, and then I'm going to show you how to switch colors, and then you can build your triangle to any size. So you're going to make a chain of 1. I'm now switching colors. You make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn, pull through, and now you're going to introduce your next color. For me, that is the blue color, as you can see on my actual piece. After white, I went to blue. So you're going to make a slip knot, and then you're going to attach your yarn where you left off your previous color into that double crochet next to the tail. You're going to attach your next color. You can use any color of your choice, by the way. So this is me teaching you how to switch colors. So after attaching your yarn, you're going to make a chain of 4, which counts as a double crochet chain 1. Into the very first chain 1 space, you're going to go in there with 3 double crochets. So we are basically repeating the same exact process that we did for row 4, but with a different color. So after your 3 double crochets, make a chain of 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space. After every 3 double crochets, you're going to make a chain of 1 and 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space. Chain 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space. So the next space is a chain of 2 at the top of the triangle, but after 3 double crochets, you make a chain of 1. And then this is a chain of 2, which is at the top of the triangle. So I'm going to place a shell into the chain 2 space in the middle of the triangle. So 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets, which is our shell. And then after the shell, you're going to make a chain of 1, and into the chain 1 space, you're going to place 3 double crochets. So we're just going to mirror exactly what we have on the opposite side. Just look and see exactly what you did here and mirror it onto this side. So chain 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space. Chain 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space. Chain 1, and into the last chain 4 space, you're going to go in there with 3 double crochets. Chain 1, and one more double crochet into the same exact space. Alright guys, now this is row 5, and now that you know how to build your triangle is going to keep getting bigger and bigger. Alright guys, I kept repeating my row until I had a total of 19 rows, but you're going to keep working until this measurement right here is 4 inches less than the widest part of your rib cage. So you're going to get your rib cage circumference minus 4 inches and consider this measurement when stretched. So for me, I am stretching to about 22 to 23 inches. And the rib cage circumference that I am considering for this piece is about 26 to 27. So your rib cage minus about 4 inches. And that the subtraction that we are doing is to leave room for the lace up at the back of the top. So you're going to work until you get that measurement when stretched, and then after that you're going to take a measurement here. This is going to be the height of your top. So I'm going to give some alternatives for the people who may not want a crop top as such, people who may want something a little bit more covered up when it comes to the belly area. So once you take this measurement, we are now going to focus on lengthening the top, but we are going to stop widening it because we have already achieved what we want at the base of the triangle. Now, if you feel like this height is just enough for you and you want a super crop top or something on the shorter side, then you're going to skip over to the halter shaping or making the top flat. But if this height is not for you and you want to make it a little bit longer, let me say to 12 inches, let's go ahead and lengthen our top before we can create the halter top. So at this point, we're going to change the construction of the top. You're going to make a chain of 3 and turn your work depending on the rows that you want for the several colors. For me, I think this is going to be 5 rows of green, and I'm still using the green color. So after your chain of 3, you're going to skip over the chain 1 space, over the 3 double crochets, and into the next chain 1 space you're going to place 3 double crochets. And you can see the direction of the top has already changed to flat as opposed to pointed to create a triangular shape. Now we are making this part flat like this, but lengthening the top, so everything else remains the same. So chain 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space, and you're going to repeat that all the way up. Sorry, chain 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space. You're going to do that all the way up. When you get to the chain 2 space, you place a shell, just as we've been doing for the previous rows, and then you go back to chain 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space all the way down, and I'll meet you back towards the end of the row and I'll show you what to do next. Alright, so we're coming to the end of row 20, because this is row 20. That's when we've started leveling up the sides of the top. And I've just placed 3 double crochets in the last chain 1 space. Now I'll directly skip over the 3 double crochets and into the chain 4 space. I'll directly go in there with a double crochet without chaining 1 here after the 3 double crochets. And that way, this is also going to change the direction of my top. So we're going on to row 21, or row 2 of leveling up the sides of the top or lengthening the top. So this was row 1 of that section. So for row 2, you're going to just make a chain of 3 and turn your work. skip over the next 3 double crochets and go into the chain 1 space with 3 double crochets, just like that, and then continue to chain 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space, and you're going to repeat your pattern. Look how we have a flat edge. You can see how the direction of the top is changing. You're going to go all the way up. When it comes to the chain 2 space at the top of the triangle, you place a shell and then continue with chain 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space until towards the end of the row, and I'll show you how to wind up. All right, so we've come to the end of row 2 of this section, and I've just placed 3 double crochets into the last chain 1 space. You're going to skip over the next 3 double crochets, and on top of the chain 3, you're going to go in there with a double crochet without chaining 1 in between. Take note of that because we're trying to create a flat edge on the sides of the piece. So this is what you're going to have. You're going to repeat this row that we've just done, which is row 2 of this section of stopping to widen the top but continuing to lengthen the top. You're going to repeat that row again and again until you get your desired top height from your collarbones, or where you want your top to sit at the top, until the bottom. So for me, I have about 10.5 inches, and I think that's just enough. I want mine to be a crop top, and 10.5 is just enough. So if you want to continue to 12 inches, this is the row that you're going to repeat. This one, the one that we've just worked. You're going to repeat it until you get your top height. And once you hit that measurement, you're now going to do something different. We're going to start working our top on only one side at a time. So for me, it's time for me to switch colors, but you can go ahead and use the same exact color. I don't know how your color placement is, but for me, it's time for me to switch up my colors. So in case you didn't switch colors, you're going to just make a chain of 3 and turn your work. So let me get my next color. And that is white. I'm going to go back to my white color and bring it back. This one, I'm going to bring it back on the edges. So you're going to attach into the very last stitch. On top of the last stitch, attach your yarn, and then you're going to make a chain of 3. So in case you didn't switch colors, you're just going to continue. Make a chain of 3, turn your work, and then you're going to skip over the next 3 double crochets, and into the next chain 1 space you're going to place 3 double crochets, chain 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space. So this is the section for continuing to make the side edge flat, but at the same time creating the halter shaping of the top. So that means we are also going to stop increasing the height of the top, as you'll see later on. So chain 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space. You're going to repeat that all the way up until you get towards the corner, the top corner of the triangle, and I'll show you what to do from there. All right, so we've worked all the way from down here to the last chain 1 space before the chain 2. So into the chain 1 space before the chain 2, we've placed 3 double crochets, and you're going to yarn over. go without chaining one in between. You're going to just yarn over and go into the chain 2 space with 1 double crochet. And just like that, we've changed the direction of the top part of the halter top. So this is row 1 of flattening the top part of the halter top, and also continuing to make the sides of the top flat. So for row 2, and this is the row that you're going to keep repeating, for me I'm going to make a chain of 1 because my plan for the color placement at this point, I'm going to just switch colors every row. So if you're not switching colors, you're just going to make a chain 3 and turn. So for me, it's time for me to switch colors, and I'm going to grab my next color, which is blue, and attach into the very last stitch of the previous row. So if you didn't switch colors, you're just going to make a chain of 3 and turn your work. So after your chain of 3, you're going to skip over the next 3 double crochets and go into the next chain 1 space with 3 double crochets. So that's how we make the top part of our halter top flat. Then from here, make a chain of 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space, and you're going to repeat that all the way down until towards the end of the row, where I'll show you how to wind up row 2 of this section. So we're coming towards the end of this row, and I'm placing my 3 double crochets into the last chain 1 space, and then you're going to skip over the last 3 double crochets, and on top of the chain 3, without chaining one in between, don't forget, on top of the chain 3, you're going to go in there with 1 double crochet. So you can see how the sides are flat, but also we are creating a flat edge to create the halter shaping of the top. So you're going to repeat this row again and again. For me, it's time for me to switch colors again. So I'm going to make a chain of 1, cut my yarn, pull through, and then switch to my next color, which is yellow. Okay. So I'm going to switch to my yellow color and repeat the same exact process as the previous row. If you're not switching colors, at this point you just make a chain of 3 and turn your work. And then skip over the next 3 double crochets and place 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space. For those of you who are wondering where I'm getting the color combination from, I am picking from the arrangement of the colors that I already have, but now on the edges I just want 1 row of each color. I feel like it's going to create a very lovely effect, just to bring them back on the edges so that they're not just concentrated in the middle of the design. So I'm going to go through with this row and then create 1 other row of green. So I'm through with my yellow color, and I'm going to attach my green color and repeat the same exact process as the previous row. So attach where you left off your previous color and make a chain of 3, skip over the next 3 double crochets, and in the chain 1 space you're going to go in there with 3 double crochets. Chain 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space. So finish up this row and I'll show you what mine will look like. Alright, so we've come to the end of the row, And I'm going to wind up the same exact way that I've been doing the previous rows. All right, so this marks the end of my green row, and I'm going to recommend a number of rows to make here. For me, I did a total of 4 rows, but for the smaller sizes, I recommend 4 to 5 rows. For me, I'm going to keep it at this because I want green to be my last color. But if you feel like this is quite small, then you're going to do 1 more row. But for me, this is fine. For the smaller sizes, that's extra small, small, medium. Medium and downwards, you're going to consider about 4 to 5 rows. After, from the exact middle, from the chain to space of the triangle, you're going to consider about 4 to 5 rows. Now for the larger sizes, that's from size large onwards, you're going to consider about 6 to 7 rows, but I recommend 6 rows. So once you're done with your rows here, you're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn. And then we're going to attach our yarn and balance exactly what we have on this side onto this side. You can see this side is not yet finished in terms of the color placement and the rows that are missing from this side. So we're going to attach our yarn on the opposite side and mirror exactly what we have here in order to balance the sides of the top. So you're going to go onto the opposite side. You can see we were working well going up, and we want to work our row 1 of this side in the opposite direction of the previous row. So I'm going to turn my work and I'm going to attach my yarn in the chain to space, just so that I'm working in the opposite direction of the previous row. So I'm going to start with the white color because that's the same exact color on this side. You're going to attach your yarn, make a slip knot and attach, and then make a chain of 3, and then skip over the next 3 double crochets, and into the next chain 1 space you're going to place 3 double crochets. So this is what we have. Go back to this very first row and see the instructions. You're going to make a chain of 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space. Repeat that until towards the end of the row, and I'll meet you back there. So you can see the top of our piece is creating that halter shape. Alright, so we've come to the end of the row. You're going to skip over the last 3 double crochets, and into the chain 3 space on top of it, you're going to place a double crochet there without chaining 1 in between. After the 3 double crochets, you just go directly into the top of the chain 3 after skipping the 3 double crochets here. And then I'm going to make a chain of 1 because it's time for me to switch my colors. And you're going to repeat the same exact process that you did for the blue, yellow and green color, or for row 2 onwards, until you balance the number of rows that you have on this side and on this side. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you back when that's done. Alright guys, after balancing the number of rows on both ends, remember for me I've done a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 rows towards the sides of the midsection of the top, but you can do as many rows depending on the fitting that you want. So we're going to attach our yarn. You're going to decide which color is going to be the boundary color of your project. For me, I've chosen green, and I'm going to attach my yarn in this corner. So attach your yarn here, and we're going to work all the way around our project while cleaning up the edges. And then you should notice that I'm now using a double strand. This is to get a firm edging on the sides of my top. So after attaching your yarn, you're going to go into the same space with 1/2 double crochet. So for a 1/2 double crochet, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all. Now you're going to go in between the stitches with 1/2 double crochet. Each space between stitches is going to get a 1/2 double crochet, just as you can see here. So keep going all the way up, placing 1/2 double crochet in between each 2 stitches from the previous row. And we are doing this on the right side of our work, by the way. This should be the right side of your work. We're not going into the stitches, we're going into the spaces between the stitches. So into the chain 1 spaces, as well as the spaces between the double crochet stitches from the previous row. You're just placing 1/2 double crochet in each and every space between 2 stitches. So you can see what we have right now. All right, so we are almost getting to the top corner, one of the corners at the top of our halter top. And once you get there, you're going to, into this space at the corner, you're going to go in there with a total of 5 1/2 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And this should turn our work so that you're literally working across the top of your project. So see what we have here. That's exactly what we want. We want a firm edge as opposed to leaving the stitch hanging. So we're going to go across the top of our project with 2 1/2 double crochets in each and every row. So at the top, we're placing 2 1/2 double crochets in each and every row. And as you can see, I am dragging along the loose ends with me so that I clean up the edges while weaving in the ends. So in the center of our project, I'm still placing 2 1/2 double crochets and then making it all the way across to the other side. So continue to place 2 1/2 double crochets in each and every row. Until the corner. So the corner is going to get a total of 5 1/2 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you can see what we have right now. You can leave behind these tails. We're going to cut them off later on. So now we're going onto the opposite side and we're doing the same exact thing that we did here. So we are going in between the stitches and placing 1 1/2 double crochet all the way down to the next corner. Okay, so we're going in between the stitches and this is what we have for now. We're going all the way down until this corner here, right here. All right, so we've reached the next corner, and in this space we are literally on the opposite end. So this is the corner that I am talking about. So in that space you're going to place a total of 6 half double crochets. 3, 4, 5 and 6. This is going to change the direction so that we are now facing down. So once you do this, in each space here you're going to go in there with 3 half double crochets in each and every row. 1, 2 and 3, and then go to the next row and place your 3 half double crochets and continue that all the way down your project. So this is what you're going to have on the side. You can see we've moved all the way from the top here down, now down the side of our project. Isn't it pretty? I feel like this is much more finished than what we had before. All right, so you can go ahead and cut off the excess yarn that was peeping through. We've already weaved it in, and you can just cut off the excess. Same applies to this point here. Once you get here, you can go ahead and cut off these loose ends that are still peeping through, but make sure you've weaved them in. So once you get to this corner, you are going to turn your work to the base. So I have placed 3 half double crochets here, and now we are at the base of our project. You're going to go into this row and place a single crochet, chain 3, and 3 more double crochets into the same space. 1, 2 and 3, and then into each of the next 2 rows you're going to place 1 single crochet. So single crochet in the next row and 1 single crochet in the next row. Sorry about the birds. So you're going to make a chain of 3 double crochets into the same space, just like that, and then 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 rows. So into this one, 1 single, and then into the next, 1 single. So this is going to create that scalloped edge at the base of our project, but also wrapping up the base so that we have one solid color around the boundary of our piece. So let's do that one more time. Chain 3 double crochets into the same space, and then 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 rows. Chain 3 double crochets into the same exact space, and then 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 rows. So this is what we have. You're going to repeat this all the way across, creating a scalloped edge at the base of your project. Oh my god, guys, this is how your project is going to look like. I feel like it looks much more completed, much more beautiful. What do you guys think about the edging? Looks so beautiful. Let me just keep going across the base of my project. Alright guys, we've come to the end of the base of our project. This is our scalloped edge, very beautiful, very professionally made. And I'm going to just go into the side of my piece and make a single crochet. So that marks the end of the scalloped edge at the base of our project. And then we are back to the side of our piece, and we're going to do the same exact thing that we did along the side here. So here we placed a total of 3 half double crochets along the side here. So we are repeating the same exact process. So half double crochet 3 times in each and every row. Until you get to the corner where we're going to do something different. So 3 half double crochets into each and every row. One, two, three. And now we've reached the corner, and we're going to place a total of 6 half double crochets, but it already has a half double crochet here. So instead of 6, I'll place a total of 5 half double crochets to balance the 6 that we have on the other side. 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to slip stitch into the 6th, which was our very first half double crochet of the round. So this is basically a round. We've worked all the way from this corner up towards the side, back to the base, and then to where we started from. And then you're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn. We are going to get rid of these loose ends. So make sure you don't cut the loose ends that are not weaved in. Your project will unravel. Make sure all your loose ends are secured very properly before you cut off the loose ends. So this is what we have, guys. Let me zoom out a little bit so that you can see the bigger picture of our project. This looks very lovely. Now we're going to go onto the straps, because now we are done with the basic construction of our project. Now we're going to grab our yarn and we're going to attach straps at the top of the top corners of our top, here and here. So we're going to go into the middle half double crochet of the 5 stitches that we placed here. So 1, 2, 3, that middle half double crochet. We're going to attach our yarn just like that, and then you're going to make a chain of 3 and double crochet into the same spot. Chain 3 and then double crochet in between the 2 stitches from the row below. So chain 3 and double crochet into the space between the 2 stitches below. So this is going to create several segments for our strap, and you're going to keep repeating this until you have a long enough strap to lace up the back of your piece. So chain 3 and double crochet in the space below the 2 stitches. So just like that, we are creating the straps of our project. And I'm going to just go ahead and keep creating the strap until I have a long enough strap. I'll let you know how many segments that I have created for the strap. Alright guys, I've done a total of 60 segments for my strap, and I went ahead to attach my yarn on the second corner, and I have done the same exact number of segments. Alright guys, now that we are through with the top, we're going to go ahead and line it. As you can see, we won't comfortably wear this top when it has these holes. So I am going to use this brown lining. It's a stretcher lining, as you can see. It kind of stretches, and this side doesn't stretch. So it doesn't stretch vertically. I'm going to put the stretching side on the horizontal part of the piece. So where it stretches is where I'm going to stretch out my piece, or lay my piece onto the fabric that's going to do the lining. And you're going to make sure you position it very well so that it is entirely covered up. And then of course you have to get a sewing thread. I have mine here, and I am going to use this black color. So I have already threaded it into my sewing needle. So you're going to get a pair of scissors, and you're going to cut somewhere roughly 1 inch or 2 inches away from the boundary of the piece. Then you also need some pins. Sorry, I'm not a tailor, so most of these things, they just come to my mind as I'm speaking. So since I don't have pins, I'm going to use these sewing needles, and I pin the lining on the boundary of the piece before I go ahead to sew. So if you have pins, well and good, but for me, I'm going to use these needles. They're going to come in handy because I don't have sewing equipment. So I've put it closer to the bottom edge, so I'm not going to cut this side. I'm going to make sure I have about 1 inch at the base, or 1.5 inches. That's enough. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut the lining a small distance away from the boundary. So you can see this, we have this, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut along that line, following the shape of the top. Make sure your cut is, try to be neat with your work. So that's what we have. And then we're going to also cut at the top. I'm going to make a horizontal line just like that, and then I will go all the way down here. Okay, so we can take off the excess. We no longer need this big chunk of lining. We just have enough to cater for our piece. So you're going to locate the right side of your work. For me, my piece is upside down actually. I can determine this basing on the last round that we created on the edge of the piece. So what I'm going to do is to bring the lining on top. Actually, I think the best thing to do is to do this, and then make sure that your piece is facing the right side facing up. So you're going to have something that looks like this. And now we are going to start pinning the edges of our piece so that the lining can disappear. So what we are going to do is to icing this, the excess that comes outside the piece. You're going to make sure that you get to the boundary of the piece. Just fold it over like this. Remember, this is facing the right side up. So fold over the excess and hide it into the inside of the top. So the excess fabric is going to be on this side, on the wrong side of the piece. So you're going to do something like this, and then get your pins. For me, since I don't have pins, I will use these sewing needles. I'm going to just make sure they don't fall around and pierce me. So If you have pins, please make use of them. So I'm going to use these sewing needles to pin my work down. Okay, so you see what I've done? That way, this area is ready for me to come and just sew on this lining on the boundary. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same exact thing at the base. So fold over the excess fabric onto the inside of the piece. Try to be neat with it. If you can go ahead and even iron to get straight lines, the better. Okay, so fold over the excess, and I'm going to pin along this row before the scalloped edge, because I don't want to disturb the beauty of the scalloped edge of my piece. So I'm folding over all the excess fabric onto the inside of the piece, so that when it comes to sewing everything together, we don't have any excess. So you can see that. Okay, so we're going to get our pins or our needles, whichever you're using, to pin down your work, and you're going to go ahead and pin it down. Make sure you don't leave very big spaces between the pins. We want our work to be intact before we even go ahead to sew everything together. So you can see what we have, guys. And the fact that I chose a brown color to be the background color, it just looks as good as skin. So you can see the inside. We are no longer getting that see-through effect for our piece. So I'm going to just go all the way around, and I keep doing what I've done here and at the base. Okay guys, we are done pinning down the lining underneath our piece, and this is the right side of our work, by the way. That's where we have the pins running along the edges. You can see them, the needles. For my case, I have used needles. That's why you're seeing them peeping through the edges of the piece. Now it's time for us to get our thread that we are going to use to attach the lining onto our crochet piece. So for me, I'm going to start with the sides. One thing that I forgot to mention, when you're pinning down this edge, you're going to make sure you don't tamper with the loops where we are going to lace up our piece. So you're going to make sure that this fold is a bit deep. It has to come towards the inside of the piece so that we leave the loops free for use. You see that? we have to leave these loops behind. We don't have to tamper with them. So you're going to make sure that this fold on the side is a bit on the inside so that you leave the loops to be functional. So I forgot to mention that, but I hope you can correct it before you go ahead to sew everything together. So you can see that if you have these loops behind, then that means we're going to have a functional piece where these straps are going to lace up the sides of the piece comfortably well without struggling with them. So we're now going to get our needle and thread. For me, I have threaded some black yarn onto my sewing needle, and I'm going to make a knot, and I'm going to go all the way around my piece, sewing the lining onto what we already have. So we have the crochet fabric, and now when it comes to the back side, look how neat the piece looks on the inside. You see that? And once we are done sewing everything on, we won't be having these pins running around, so it will even be much neater than this. But at least we shall have a lining on the inside of the piece. So turn your work to the right side, and I'm going to start sewing from this corner. I think from this corner all the way up, across, all the way down, and then back to this side. So my sewing skills are quite limited, but I'm going to do the best I can to get a nice finish for my piece. You can even go ahead and use a sewing machine. I don't know how to use that. I have one, but I don't know how to use it, so I won't tamper with it. I'm going to hand sew so that I also give a chance to the people who may not have a sewing machine, so that we can see what we can get out of this. So when it comes to the sewing bit, I am sewing into every other stitch. I'm not going into each and every stitch from the project. I'm sewing into every other stitch, and I think this is called, I don't know what stitch this is, but I'm just going onto the edges of the lining, the folded lining, and then sewing it onto the crochet fabric. So once you're done with one of the parts, like let me say here, once everything is attached, you're free to remove this pin. So as you go along, keep removing the pins that were attaching the lining onto the crochet fabric so that you can get the bigger picture of what's happening on your project. So I can also go ahead and remove this one. So this is what we are having. I'm going to go all the way up. I know this is not the neatest approach, but we're just doing what we can so that we can have a lining for our piece to make it functional. So I'm trying my best to be uniform so that this looks like a sequence or something that's planned. You can see that bump. It's running along the edge. It may not have the best sight, but the fact that it is uniformly running across, then it looks like a planned piece. So try your best to do the same exact thing for your piece so that it looks like the design was actually intended, as opposed to it looking like a mistake or something abrupt. Okay, so I'm done working along this edge, and this is what we have, guys. It's not the worst. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. I'm actually liking the way it's coming together. Okay, so I'm going to go across the top, across the base, the second side, doing the same exact thing. So make sure you pin down the corners very well. You don't want your work to fall apart. So I'm now going along the top as I remove my pins, of course. So along the top, I'm still going into every other stitch. I don't want these stitches to be very close to each other. May create some sort of disorganized look. So I skip a stitch and then attach into the next. So before you sew everything together, you just have to make sure the lining is at the level where you want it to be, and then you go ahead and sew the crochet fabric onto the lining. If it's not, you're free to adjust it to where you want it to be before you do the sewing, because at this point you have the upper hand of where you want everything to be. So we are done with this part, and that's what we have. That's what it looks like. So I'm going to go onto the second side of my piece. Alright guys, so I'm done attaching this side, the top and the second side. So I'm left with this flat edge and the opposite side and the base. So when I flip my work onto the other side, this is what we have. I'll go ahead and iron this, but for now this is what I have. And you can see how the lining has attached onto the edge of the crochet fabric. Alright, so as I had mentioned, make sure you don't seal off the holes on the side of the piece where we're supposed to lace up our straps. So I'm going to fold this a bit deeper so that I can leave room for the lace up. I'm going to put the excess fabric on the inside of the piece so that I can leave behind these holes for the lace up of the piece. So I'm going to just go to the back side . Okay, and then I'm going to sew along this line, leaving behind the gaps. So just make sure you get your lining to be sewed on All right, so you see what we've done here? We've left behind these lace up loops. The black color has kind of come through at the front, but that's fine. It's not looking as bad because it's in a straight line. So I'm going to go ahead and also sew the base of the piece. So for this one, I don't want to sew it on the edge of the scalloped the scallop design, so I'm going to just flip over my work and I keep sewing it along the base of the piece before the scalloped edge, just like this, so that we don't tamper with the scallop design. So I'm going to just keep working all the way across the base of the piece. Just try your best to be as neat as possible. I wish I knew how to use the sewing machine. I would have really done a very good job. But for now, let's use what we have, our hands. So you see that? I'm going to go all the way across and also join the side here, and then I'll be back to show you what everything will look like. Okay everyone, after going all the way around the edges of the top, this is what we have. When we flip it over to the other side, this is exactly what we have. We have a lining, and we are going to fold it over like this, and we are going to lace up our straps the same exact way that we did before, attaching the lining. I hope you remembered to leave behind the spaces for the back lace up of the top. So I'm going to just lace it up as usual, and let's see the final look of our piece. If you enjoyed this tutorial, guys, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to leave a comment behind, and don't forget to also check out the written pattern for this design on all my online shops. So thanks for watching, and let's see the final look of our piece. I'll catch you in my next one. Bye guys.